put me in a little room, and I'm with Norah O'Donnell. I'm a happy guy today, and we actually, it's funny, you just got out your BlackBerry. We have breaking news as we speak.
We have breaking news as we speak. CBS News has confirmed that Clint Eastwood is the mystery guest. Dirty Harry will be appearing at the Republican National Convention on the night that Mitt Romney is delivering his acceptance.
Nora, was that the worst kept secret here in Tampa?
I think it was the worst kept secret here. It'll be interesting to see what Clint Eastwood is going to do, and hopefully, I'm sure there's a number of Republicans that hope that he doesn't overshadow Mitt Romney.
Let's talk a little bit about Ann Romney's speech and go from there. What did you think of Ann Romney's speech?
Ann Romney's speech was about personalizing her husband, trying to humanize him, talk a little bit about their early marriage together. I think she talked about the fact that they met at a high school dance 5 or 6 times. The high school dance thing kept coming up, and how he brought her home safely at the end of the night. You can trust Mitt, she said. And I think that kind of story was a way to try and help those voters at home who may be disaffected by Barack Obama, not happy with the policies of Barack Obama, but don't yet trust Mitt Romney, don't yet think that Mitt Romney cares about the concerns of average Americans, as we've seen in the polls. So for Ann Romney, it was about delivering those personal details, but also trying to help people cross that trust threshold, so where they would vote for him and kick Barack Obama out of office.
Do you think it was effective?
I think Ann Romney, Michelle Obama, political spouses can do something that nobody else can do, which is vouch for the guy that they're married to, And so that's the job they have. They can talk about them as a father. They can deliver these interesting anecdotes that a campaign consultant or another politician can't do. So these political spouses have done these types of speeches in the past, and they're usually ones that wow the crowd. And, in a lot of these conventions, I can always remember after the political spouse speaks, people say, she should be on the ticket.
I heard that a couple times, in fact. My wife is one who tweeted me, and it was the ironing board, eating off the ironing board in the basement. And it's like, yes, that's that. And it was a great line, because I think it really did ring true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, so Paul Ryan's speech. What did you think last night?
Paul Ryan, I was told by campaign officials, was going to deliver a hard-hitting critique, a deconstruction of the Obama agenda, and that's exactly what he did. Step by step, he talked about 1 in 6 Americans living in poverty, 23 million Americans who are out of work. He hit Obamacare and repealing Obamacare. He accused Obama of raiding Medicare. He suggested that Obama had been somehow responsible for the closing of a GM plant near where Paul Ryan lives, even though that GM plant closed before Obama took office. This was a step-by-step indictment of Obama, and he was throwing red meat to the lions there, those delegates who were gathered. So he is a favorite of conservatives. As chairman of the House Budget Committee, he knows these issues, these budget issues, and that's what he was out there to talk about. And I think there's a number of conservatives and Republicans who thought it was an excellent speech.
I've heard the term smartest guy in the room a lot of times. I don't know how much you've talked to Paul Ryan. Is that true?
I think Paul Ryan is an expert on the budget, and it's pretty hard to be an expert on a budget, on a federal budget.
That many lines and that much stuff?
That many lines on a federal budget. So, and Paul Ryan is the author of the conservative budget plan that all of the Republicans voted for, that Democrats want to use to run against Republicans in the fall. Paul Ryan is the author of this controversial program that would reform Medicare, or as the Democrats say, would dismantle Medicare, a plan that would take Medicare, if you're under 55, and essentially would be a premium support system. So whereas now elderly Americans can use Medicare as health insurance, now the federal government would give you essentially a set amount of money to use for health care or to purchase a health insurance plan.
All right, so let's look at tonight. What does Mitt Romney have to say?
Mitt Romney has several goals in his speech, according to campaign advisors. One is to connect with voters, tell a little bit about himself, his personal story, maybe say something that people don't know about him. We've seen in our own poll that his unfavorable ratings are higher than his favorable ratings. In political speak, we call that he's underwater. And so you've got to change some of that, and that's a goal his campaign advisors have. Number two, he's got to say why Obama cannot be reelected for another 4 years, why that would be wrong. And then he's got to talk about his own record. And I think one of the things I'll be watching closely is how specific does he get about what he's going to do for the country. That has been one of the criticisms of the Romney-Ryan ticket, that they have talked a great deal about why you should get rid of Barack Obama. They've not been very specific about their own policy proposals. For instance, Mitt Romney has said that he would balance the budget in 8 years. He would cut everybody's taxes by 20%. He would increase defense spending, and he would restore Medicare cuts and repeal Obamacare. How does he do all of that and balance the budget in 8 years? Ambitious? Yes. In fact, more ambitious than even Paul Ryan's plan, which many people consider the conservative blueprint. Democrats say far too austere, and that would take till 2040 to balance the budget. Neither Romney nor Ryan has said which tax loopholes or deductions they would end in order to make up for these new tax cuts. Would everybody lose their mortgage interest deduction that people take? Would people lose their child tax credits? Those are the kinds of questions. But I don't think those will come up in this
I was going to say, do you think he'll give the how? I mean, because again, somewhere along the line, you do have to give the how.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm interested in all of those details because that's what, journalists do, and we try and push politicians to be specific about that. And to be fair to Barack Obama's got to lay out what he's going to do in the next 4 years and be specific about those particular things. But you're right. These types of convention speeches are not like, being the professor up there. They've got to inspire people. They've got to give vision. They've got to
bring the house down.
They've got to bring the house down. So yeah.
So you followed the president. You were the chief White House correspondent for CBS. Now you're doing the morning show as well. But a little bit about the access to the president that you had. I mean, one of the criticisms about President Obama is there wasn't a lot of specifics there 4 years ago, and here we are 4 years later, and there's still not a lot of specifics.
Right. Look, President Obama, the biggest headwind he is facing is the economy. Unemployment at 8.3%. No president has been reelected with unemployment above 7.2% since FDR. So we're talking about half a century. I mean, this is a huge headwind for the president. What's at the tailwind for the president? The changing demographics of this country. Obama does well among all the demographic groups in this country that are growing. Hispanics, single women, young voters. All of those types of different demographic trends are benefiting Barack Obama. And if you look in the battleground states, look at a state like North Carolina, which will probably once be the closest state in this year. North Carolina, a traditionally Republican state. Barack Obama won it by his smallest margin in 2008, just 14,000 votes. It's where the Democratic convention is going to be, and that is for a reason. The reason Charlotte went Democratic in 2008 because more young people, more Hispanics, and actually a fairly large African American population.
Is that how? Because everything looks like it's really close. I mean, within several percentage points. You think that's what's keeping it really close?
Well, I think I think it's still a bit early, and
because the economy is the economy. I mean, it's not pretty.
The best political prognosis is that this will be tight. We're going to have these conventions. There'll be Mitt Romney may get a bump, and Barack Obama may get a bump from his convention. Then we have 3 presidential debates in October and 1 vice presidential debate. This will be the first opportunity for the American people to see these guys side by side. And the Commission on Presidential Debates has changed the format this year. Both candidates will be seated at a table. Both candidates, they are going to do 15-minute chunks on specific issues. So there'll be 15 minutes on fiscal matters and the deficit. There'll be 15 minutes on taxes. There'll be 15 minutes on their jobs plan. They want to drill down so the American people have a nice, clean debate where they get a real sense of these candidates' issues on each of those policies. And I think that's great. I think that's great to provide that kind of information. And I think that may change things as both, different people will get a better sense of these candidates and what they want to do.
You've wandered around. I don't know when you got in, but you've wandered around.
Yeah.
I've seen I'm 42 years old. I've seen a lot of people who look my age. And it seems there's a young vibe going on in Tampa. Have you noticed the same thing?
You mean the journalists or the delegates?
Journalists, delegates, you name it. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, look, it's the 30s to 40s, and suddenly, my goodness, we're the generation that's going to be making these decisions. It's kind of strange.
Well, look at what is the change with Paul Ryan, the first
Gen Xer.
First Gen Xer on the ticket, first born in the 1970s. And there's a lot of people talking about a change kind of in both parties. In many ways, the Democrats went through that in 2008, and the Republicans had an older candidate with John McCain in 2008. Mitt Romney is 65, and then the next generation, you'll see what, Paul Ryan is called one of the young guns. So these generational shifts happen.
Speaking of shifts, you go from covering the White House every day and that beat to getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
How do you make that transition?
Easily.
You good with that?
I'm very good with that. Look, CBS This Morning is an incredible program that has done very well, and the best thing about it is it's 2 hours of live television every morning. I think it's the jewel of television. I do, because where else can you do 2 hours of television where you get to interview every newsmaker, cultural leader, musician. I mean, it just brings out the most interesting people that exist. I mean, people who are doing great things across this country and around the world. And so it's a just incredible, I'm truly honored to be a part of it. And here at the conventions, I mean, we've had huge guests: Condoleezza Rice, Senator Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush. I mean, all the big guests, and Romney on Friday. All the big guests want to be on morning television because that's where the growth is in television, and that will be true at the Democratic convention. So I'm thrilled.
Are you a political junkie by nature?
Yes.
So I mean,
yes,
that's still going to be there, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely a political junkie. This is my Super Bowl.
Thank you, Norah. I appreciate it.